Congratulations on the award. What was your reaction to have been voted?
I'd say like disbelief, I guess. Like they have like the live results, so you're kind of following along, but I was losing the whole time. So then when they announced it, it was pretty cool. I think it's cool for me, but like you feel way more about like kind of the whole thing, like the team, the other coaches that helped out, especially the athletes. Like I think it means more to the guys than really to me, but it's great.
You've been rowing in rowing since you were a junior. You've got a national team experience. How did you fall into coaching?
It's kind of like the next thing, right?
I don't know. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I was going for the Olympics in 2012. Didn't quite work out the way that I'd really hoped. So it took a long time for me at that point away from the sport. Like 6 months probably. And I was just trying to figure out what to do next. I had been in Newport Beach, California, rowing with my cousins, and I got in touch with Pete and asked him if there was anything out there for me, and he said he had a bunk bed. So I packed my car and I I went out to hang with Pete, and we he was working at Long Beach Junior Crew, and I joined up with him. I'd say I finagled that job. They hired me for a couple of days to watch the girls while all the coaches were at the Charles, and then I came back on Monday.
What have you found? What is it about coaching that interests you the way it does?
Uh, well, it's very very intellectually challenging, and it's such like especially with like junior boys. Juniors is what I've been coaching mainly. Junior girls, junior boys, they're going through so many changes themselves that like considering them a constant is very difficult. So then when you try to like put the pieces together, you may be working with different pieces on different days. So in terms of the daily, that's really challenging. That's really enjoyable to me to try to figure out how the pieces go together, figure out what motivates an individual, and then what motivates maybe like a boat, and then what motivates a team. And so kind of like all the layers, how much of a puzzle it is. It's addicting.
You had quite a year. Talk a little bit about how it began and how it ended.
Yeah, so I'm just starting my second year. So yes, last year was my first year at Oakland. I was at Long Beach Junior Crew. Oakland approached me pretty late in the summer, 2 summers ago. Asked me if I was interested, and I was. Came down. I think it was printed in the online article, but when I got hired, they were talking about this year, and that's not a promise, but as this year 2016 being a year where like the pieces maybe are falling into place. Last year was more of a rebuilding year, but we just came down and the guys started working really hard right away, and so I mean totally out of the blue we won the Charles as my first race as a head coach. So that's how we started off the year. That put a lot that I was hoping to build through the year. So that put like a different spin on the year. So dealing with that all year was definitely a challenge, an interesting challenge, one that I wasn't really expecting. Like winning comes with all sorts of pressure, and like you deal with different stuff than if you're like chasing somebody. But yeah, we just snuck wins. We snuck wins the whole year. I don't think we ever won by more than 2 seconds.
What was it like for your crew? I mean, what did you see them learning? Did you see actual growth?
Yeah, yeah. They're high school boys, so yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy when you show up and the guys that are there in September, like they're not there in June. So it's super gratifying as like a coach to think that you have some role in that. Yeah, I think like if I'm thinking about growth, I think more about the spring season for those guys, just because the fall was so unexpected. Like we weren't trying to win stuff. I was just trying to establish my program. Like I was trying to establish like workouts that they felt comfortable with and were familiar with, like how a daily practice might run, that kind of stuff. So like the wins were totally beside the point. So in the spring, like we came into the first race as defending Charles champions, and it was like the guys were crazy. Like they were like they couldn't handle it. So like they were rowing so like compared the way they were racing compared to the way they were practicing. Practices were good. The races were like terrifying to see as a coach, just because the pressure was like so on top of them. And so to like have those guys kind of like come to terms with how good they were, and like come to terms with how fast they were, and like how fast they could be, kind of like figuring out how the goal, the end goal, kind of like how do you deal with the end goal being the ultimate, like for those guys, the ultimate of winning the national championship in the men's eight. That's so much pressure as like this idea, and so to watch those guys learn how to deal with that through the year was really cool.